Yes, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Veterans Minimum. I'm your host, Nick Dayes, at the Lame Show, as you can find me. My guy, we finally set this up, bro.
Finally here, back in New York.
Back in New York, first and foremost, thank you for joining me. My guy, Mikey Kaufman. Mike Kaufman, Overtime Mike.
What up, what up? Happy to be here. Came
Dude,
out to Queens.
shout out to you. Do you come to Queens often?
I do not.
No?
I don't.
Is there a reason why? Is it just
I
too
mean,
far? Or?
well, my office is in Brooklyn and I live in Manhattan. So, like, I kind of I like spending most of my time in Manhattan. But I'm definitely trying to explore. Like, I think tonight I hit up my buddy and I was like, what's some good spots? I'm trying to get some, like, good, like, Greek food or something out here.
Bro,
So,
I'm Greek, dude. Just fucking ask me.
sure, I can ask you. What's your good neighborhood spot?
So
Like a quick like secret like falafel or something like that, you know.
So you can get like King Souvlaki's pretty poppin'. I know those dudes too. They're on 31st and 31st. I should have told them about this. Maybe get some hookups too. Cheap plug. But the food trucks, man, a lot of food trucks are popping, especially the ones over here in Queens. If you're looking for fish, Kiclades is like top of the food chain. Like George Clooney goes there, Orlando
Wow.
Bloom. It's like they have pictures all over the walls of like famous celebrities and shit.
Wow.
But yeah, the thing I say about Queens and Astoria in particular is it might be, and this is gonna sound super ignorant because I haven't been to many places in the world, but it might be the most diverse place in the world. And a lot of people have said that because, like, bro, if you walk down Steinway Street, you'll hit all within a 2 block radius. You'll hit Moroccan, Egyptian, French, South Korean, Mexican, Venezuelan, Greek, Italian, like restaurants just stacked on top of each other.
Yeah. No, I've heard. That's why like there's a lot of hype about like Manhattan restaurants and stuff, and I've had some of the best food ever in Manhattan, but I know that like Brooklyn and Queens actually probably have the best food realistically out of the five boroughs. So I gotta do some more exploring for sure. I'm a
No,
pretty big foodie, so.
yeah. I mean, dude, you're in mad good shape too. I see you fucking dunking and shit, and you always playing ball. You play ball overseas, right?
Yeah, I played ball overseas back in 2014, 2016 in Israel. Pretty really cool experience. Speaking of Mediterranean food,
Mm.
that's where I got on with my hummus and falafel out there.
There
You know
you
what I'm
go.
saying?
That's what's up. How long? So you played there for what? 2 years? You said.
Yeah, just about 2 years.
What's that experience like?
It was like basketball wise, it didn't go as well as I was hoping. Like I wasn't progressing the way you dream, where like you go over there and like
Just drop
you
30.
you drop 30, you're the starting player. Like next thing you know, like you're signing a bigger contract. Your 10-year career or whatever. Like it wasn't going like that for me. I knew that, I did think I was good enough to play at that level, and I knew it would just take some time to make my way. But
Pull that
oh
mic just a little closer to you. Yeah,
yeah,
it adjusts too. So you see how like the
yeah,
yeah.
like this. How's
Yeah,
that?
that's cool.
That's good.
Yeah. Just makes editing a lot easier for me later on.
Got you.
So yeah,
Um,
you felt like it didn't progress.
Yeah, so I wasn't progressing the way I wanted, and I just had a big like I graduated college pretty young, so I finished undergrad 4 years. I played 4 years at a D3 school in Boston, and then so I was only 21. So then after 2 years of playing in Israel, I was like 23, and I was like, okay, like I can either keep trying to do this basketball thing, make kind of like shit money, and try to grind it out and try to make a name for myself, or I could come back to the States where I knew I really wanted to end up down the road, um, and try to find a career somewhere else. Which is I also wanted to prove that I could like have a professional career outside of sports. I mean, outside of playing sports. So I decided to hang it up at the time and move to New York with no job, and that's when I came across overtime.
Hmm. So originally, where are you from?
So I was born in Westchester, just out of the city here. That's why I'm a Knicks, Jets, Mets fan, which is like the worst combination
Bro,
ever right now.
Knicks, Mets, and I like the Rangers, and my favorite team is the Giants. So I picked the right football team for the time
You picked the
being.
right football team, but we can share some of the same
Yeah, same
agony.
pain, bro. Same pain.
But I grew up in South Florida, so I grew around Heat fans, and like I had to live around all my friends when LeBron and was on the Heat. It was a terrible time. And even the Marlins, like as trash as they are to year, they've still won a World Series in what, 97 and '03.
Bro, it's the most random
So
thing. Like
yeah,
they'll just out of nowhere just put together a bomb squad, and you're like, how
yeah.
the hell did this
And
happen?
and then the next year they just like get
They
rid of
sell
all. They
everyone.
sell everyone
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And then luckily the Dolphins are really trash, and they've always been pretty much like since Marino. So as long as I can remember, the Jets have actually probably been more competent than the Dolphins. But other than that, like yeah, so I'm really kind of like a hybrid, right? It's like I have this like I have such respect and like my DNA is like New York. But then again, like I grew up in South Florida, so I am a little bit of like a Florida boy. But
Mm.
clearly, my love for New York brought me back, and I've been living in the city now for about 5 years. Kind of dipped out during the pandemic for a little bit, but so pumped to be back, and I plan on being here at least for the next 5 years for sure.
That's how we connected. I had shouts to Jarrell Harris. I had him on the pod, and then we started following each other and then connected. And I was like, dude, I would love to get you on the show. You're like, yo, man, when I'm back in New York, let's do it. I was like, where you at now? And you're like, Florida. I'm like, this motherfucker. Mad people left to go to Florida, man,
Yeah,
during the
like
pandemic. How was that experience for you?
so.
Because you were there for a while. Like, I had friends go for a week or two. You were there.
So it was crazy. So like I live with my fiance Lauren, and basically we both work remote. We both have jobs like kind of in technology, and we were able to work remote, which is really fortunate. And we just kind of had this breaking point where like we were all in denial at first about the pandemic. We thought it'd be like a month or 3 months, and then like we kind of all slowly got out of our delusional denial, and we're like, oh shit, like this is not gonna, like we're stuck in this for a while. So once we kind of got over that hump, we were like, yo, we were planning on moving to a new apartment anyway when our lease was up, in the city before the pandemic. So then we were like, maybe we should just like get out of this apartment, put all of our stuff in storage, and just kind of nomad it for the time being until like it's time to go back to New York. So we decided to do that. We were able to break our lease with like a minimal penalty. We moved all of our stuff into storage, like furniture, 90% of our clothes, everything, which was a lot of work up front and was a pain in the ass. And our plan was to do like 3-4 months, you know, maybe live rent free for a little bit at my parents' house or something like that, and then stay at like Airbnbs or whatever, because we wouldn't have rent. Ended up being a full year of living out of a suitcase. Insane. So we did it with some of our good friends, because there was an open house. Like their parents were gone in their summer house, so we were able to crash at someone else's house to like quarantine. Because at this time, like you don't want to like go see your mom and dad.
Yo, no one knew anything.
You don't want to get them sick. You don't want to risk the fact. Like that was the biggest threat. Was like, young healthy people are going to be probably okay, but it's like you don't know how your parents are going to react if they're over the age of 50. And my dad was like pushing 70, so it was like got to be really careful. So we went back to South Florida. We quarantined at my friend's house, like all together. We came from New York, and then 3-4 weeks we were there. Then we went to my parents' house for a while. Then we went to Colorado for a month and a half. We went to LA for a month. Then we came back to my parents for a little bit, and then we went to then we were in Miami for 3 months. And finally back in New York, just moved into our new place in Chelsea. And I mean, man, what a year. Like, I feel like we don't even realize like how this is like how it's affected us like mentally. And it's I was really fortunate. Like I had a lot of silver linings, but a lot of people had it really, really tough. But I think it's all, no matter how good you had it during the pandemic, like it's all affected us. It's affected us like negatively in some way.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. But, dude, you also just rattled off a lot of things that you did that's, like, really dope as hell, that you probably don't do that if it's not for the pandemic.
Exactly.
Like, experiences like that, which the cool thing about that, and again, everyone suffered a loss of some kind, or, like even me, my family, like, we lost our food truck because, like, we didn't do no payments on it for a year because it was still in Jersey. We couldn't take it out because all the health departments and shit were closed. So we suffered like a $50,000 loss, like loss of deposit and everything. So like everyone suffered in one way or another, but it was cool. I like hearing stories like that where you're just like, yo, we're just going to sort of backpack around the country in a way.
Yeah, it was actually like kind of a smart thing, because it's like we didn't know, like, if you lose your job, like you don't want to be stuck in some sort of lease, like especially in Manhattan, like the rent is crazy. So it was like we actually became more nimble. And our only reoccurring expense every month was a few $100s for the storage unit that was keeping our stuff. So we became more nimble, we definitely became a little more minimalistic. Like as soon as I got back all my stuff from storage, I threw out so much stuff or like donated so much stuff because it's like you realize like you don't need that much. You don't. So I think it was a really healthy exercise.
Bro, you know how mad when I moved out, my mom, like, I emptied out all the drawers and I just like threw them on the floor, laid down like a blanket and shit so they don't get all crusty. And I just went through a bunch of things and I packed like 3 duffel bags full of clothes to bring here to my apartment. And my mom's like, "What are you gonna do with all this?" I was like, "This is like winter stuff. We could put it up in the attic." And she's like, "What about these?" I was like, we could just get rid of them." She's like, "There's fucking tags on them." I was like, "Yeah, no." She's like, I don't understand it.
Yeah, I feel like the pandemic, like it kind of put things in perspective in a lot of ways. Like, hey, you don't really need half the stuff you have, and then on top of it, like it also made you like stop for a minute and just think about your life, reflect, like what am I doing day to day? Because before the pandemic, like we're all just so used to our routine. We're in, we're just keep going and going and going with not a lot of reflection. Maybe we could be doing things different. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this, and it kind of, at least for me, like I think I became better all the way around, like from every aspect, from my job to, my training and my workouts to my diet, how I am with my family. Like it just made you think. It made you think and reflect and look at yourself in the mirror a little bit more. So I think it was it was an interesting time. But hopefully, people found it as an opportunity to maybe improve themselves if they could. I think it was a good opportunity.
Yeah, it was cool to see people capitalize on that downtime because a lot of I don't know. Some people say it's excuses. I like to think it's reasons too. Like I got friends that take 2 hours to commute to work, going and coming back. So it's like 4 hours of your day you're spending just commuting.
It's
so
insane.
I get it that you're not fit or active or going to the gym, because even one of my buddies now, he just started this new gig and he's like, we would always go work out in the mornings together around 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. And now he starts work at that time. He's like, yo, I put in an 8 to 9 hour work day. My commute is about an hour going and coming back. I get home at like 7:30. It's like the last thing I want to do is go work out.
100%. Yeah, and that's kind of how that's how like the job force and the society set everything up, and that's why it's so hard to. That's why, yeah. I mean, America is like super overweight. Like everything's kind of set up for you to fail. Like as far as being healthy, it's like everything. Like the easiest, cheapest foods are the most processed, terrible foods for you, and like in order to provide for yourself with how expensive everything is, you need to get a job. If you need to get a job, you got to work these hours. You got to work these hours. You got to commute. There's only 24 hours in a day. You're supposed to sleep a third of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay. So yeah, it's like, it's tough. It's everything's set up and it's you going against the grain. If you want to be successful, healthy, happy, like it's tough. And I feel like people don't talk about that enough. You really got to push the boundaries and, it's just hard.
So when you come back from Israel and you come back to New York, kind of unknown, don't know what the future holds for you. How do you stumble upon overtime?
Yeah, so everything was really unknown. Kind of took a leap of faith coming to New York. My sister was here, which was a little comforting. She was working in the city.
How would you describe overtime, by the way? Because when I first got exposed to them, I feel like overtime found its niche and demographic covering like high school. Like these guys coming out of high school, guys and girls, were phenomenons, and a lot of it was because of the brand Overtime.
Yeah, so I think overtime, overtime is like the it's like the sports network for the next generation, right? And that means like next generation consumer and next generation athlete. So it's like things are just changing, right? Like it used to be like people cared more about the New York Knicks and they cared about high school players. But with Gen Z and like young millennials and Gen Z, like I think they care more about what they can relate to in a sense. So like you got a kid like Mikey Williams who's like, I think he's a rising junior, and like they know he's like in high school just like them, and he has 3 million followers on Instagram. And what I'm saying is like Mikey Williams is more famous than then I don't know what's a good and most of the New York Knicks players. Maybe all. Like he's probably more famous than RJ Barrett. Probably. He probably has more fans. People want to see him more. Is he as good as RJ Barrett? I mean, he's 16. It's unclear.
Right.
how good he'll be. Obviously, he's like a prospect, and he he should go to the NBA. But we just kind of saw the way things were changing, right? It's like, and then we were just paying attention to Gen Z when almost no one really was. It was like, we grew up watching these talk shows on ESPN. We grew up with TV, flipping the channels. Like, they never even like. And then now some of us, like older millennials, or like maybe we've cut the cord and we're all in streaming. It's like these guys never cut the cord. They never had the cord. Like, they've been consuming content on their phone 90% of the time,
iPads,
on YouTube.
laptops. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're like, hey, like, why don't we just create a company basically for them? Content that's great for mobile. Things that's easy to consume, edit it the way they want it to be edited. And we just taken tons of data and engage with our community, ask them what they want, and that's the thing. Like, we hire amazing people who have experience, like working on TV shows and stuff like that. But we really just make like what the data says, and that's the cool thing about being all digital, which is what we are. Is like we get this amazing data that like a TV channel doesn't, where like we see where our audience stops watching a video, or we see like on YouTube, the analytics are insane, and you can see like, okay, this wasn't that compelling, or we can look at the thumbnail or the title, and we know how to optimize, and we're kind of making it. And then that also ties in with the athletes we cover, right? Like, we don't only cover the best basketball players. We cover the ones that are enticing, or the ones that our fans care about, or are interested in, and that's not always the best player. And yeah, like, to go back on, I don't know what your question was before, but it was like, yeah, like we kind of made, like, for 10 plus years now, there's been tons of companies like covering high school sports. Like, you're able to watch like highlights of like Derrick Rose in high school and stuff, but no one's really taken it a step further with, episodic content, longer form content, storytelling, reality shows, things like that. And now with our league popping off, everything's just kind of changed, and now the NCAA with the name, image, and likeness, like, things are just changing. And it's just cool being on the forefront, and I feel like we're on the kind of like the right side of history with this. And it's a really exciting time for Overtime.
This league, Overtime Elite,
Yep.
I think it's dope. And I think it's, again, being on the forefront of something. And with the name, image, and likeness thing. How did you feel about that? Like, my stance was always, I don't know, bro, if like me and you played college basketball together, you were the starter, I was the backup. You're the man, right? You're the number one recruit. Do you get paid the same as me? Do we get paid the same? So the idea of like a stipend for a student athlete, I never agreed with, but I couldn't disagree more with the idea of, if us two go out to dinner with our girlfriends and some booster wants to buy us steak dinners, we're going to get in trouble for that. Or
Yeah.
if you wanted to get a tattoo and the tattoo guy was like, yo, sign a couple jerseys for me, and like, the $1,200 arm sleeve you don't got to worry about.
Yeah.
Like, that's where shit got a little crazy for me.
So the name, image, and likeness thing, like, I think it's a great first step. And I do think there's a lot of college athletes that think like, oh my God, I'm about to get paid now. And like, realistically, they're not, because
This is still like the top 1%.
yeah, it's like if Zion was in college now, like, he probably would have got a bag, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's like it's about, it's about how strong your social media brand is, really. Like I think a lot of college kids think this is going to change everything. I don't think it will. Like, I don't think it will for them necessarily. It won't for that many kids. Like, it's going to be the top percent, the ones that are really savvy on creating content, social media. They're going to get some brand deals. They're going to maybe be able to link up with influencer marketing companies, stuff like that. Hopefully, we're trying to flesh out, like, for now, like, for our playbook, like, we've been working with athletes in high school, and we haven't been able to pay them when we wanted to, because we don't want to ruin their eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of why we said F it, and we started our own league, so we could actually pay our high school kids and create content around them and really try to develop them on and off the court. But before the league, the way it would go is, we would, we work with these kids. We'd really help grow their brands. Their social media followers would skyrocket. And then they go to college, and we can't touch them until they're in the NBA. And then when they're in the NBA, they have an agent, they have a team, and it's hard to infiltrate that as well. So we'd love to have the cohesiveness of working with them throughout. So it's like, okay, they go to high school, and then now if they go to college, which is fine. Overtime elite's not for every single athlete. So like college is still a good path for some kids. And then it's like, now maybe we can work with them. Maybe we can get them in some sponsored content, get them paid, to help promote the university, help promote the program and the kid. So I know internally right now, like we're trying to figure out what our play is with name, image, and likeness in the NCAA, and we'll figure it out. But I mean, I think that's a good first step. Like things are changing. Like back in the 70s and 80s or whatever, like if you wanted college players to be amateurs, that's fine. But like these D1 college basketball players specifically, like they're not amateurs. Like they're pros in every sense. Like one, they work really hard. When you work really hard, you should get paid. Two, like their college scholarship doesn't really mean anything, and some people are offended by that. But it's because like they go to school for 6 months and then they don't go to school anymore. Like they're not getting a degree anyway. And two, most of these players, they're bringing in way more revenue than what their scholarship is. Like,
Yeah.
And they're selling jerseys. Like there's no way to put it. Like something like this needed to happen. As far as like getting paid salary in college, like I don't know if it's gonna happen. And then like I agree with what you said. Like the walk-on like probably doesn't need to get paid like a salary, but like Zion probably does. And I think now with the G League Ignite team and Overtime Elite, NCAA really feels the pressure, and they're definitely starting to change things, and we're seeing that become evident now.
What's the list of, I guess, requests for a 16-year-old basketball like prodigy? Like, is their social media presence a big demand? Is like,
are you saying for Overtime Elite?
I'm saying just in general, as someone that covers that field, right, and that demographic. Like I went back and visited my old high school, and everybody's on their phones and shit. Like everyone cares about Instagram and their followers. So like, what is it? What is like the list of like what they strive for? Is it a following? Is it being a better athlete? Is it education? Like, how would you power rank it from your experience?
What they prioritize?
Yeah, like what's their priorities?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know 100%. Like, they definitely care about social media in a way we didn't, because we just didn't really have social media growing up.
We had MySpace.
Yeah, we had MySpace.
MySpace was like the first big one where if you were in someone's top 8, you knew you were like legit.
Exactly. Like I think, yeah, it's like, we tell these athletes to build their own brands. Like social media is a thing that really helps that. At the end of the day, like having hundreds of thousands of followers is just an asset, and it's a way to distribute and promote different things and create your own brand and make money. So I think it's important for these basketball players at a young age to, focus on that. I hope that they're focusing more on their craft than anything else. And I think they are, like, nowadays there's just so much access to information, like between strength and conditioning and basketball skill work. Like NBA players are as skilled as they've ever been. High school players are as skilled as they've ever been. Like there's definitely flaws in the system with development, and that's one thing we're trying to fix with Overtime Elite. But all in all, like I would hope that their priorities are like, school, like they got to keep their grades up, like for the most part, school and working on their craft. But yeah, they definitely care about the clout. They definitely want to be on Overtime, be in the content, because it is fun, and they want to grow on social because they know it could benefit them in the future.
Yeah, it's weird how everything correlates too, because you could have a pop in social media, but if you're whack on the court, eventually that's gonna fizzle out. So you need to have game too.
100%. But that's another reason why, like, it's like if you look even at the McDonald's All-Americans, right? If you went down the list of the last 20 years of McDonald's All-Americans, and like there'd be a lot of names like you don't even know, because it's like nothing's promised. So it's like, and some of these players, they fizzle out for a number of reasons. Maybe they weren't good enough to begin with and their potential, and they just were playing in like a weak high school league. Or maybe like they did have the potential, but they didn't have the right team or guidance or program to develop them.
Got hurt.
They got hurt. And it's like, dude, imagine if Zion got hurt in college and was done.
Well, there was that incident.
He would have made $0.
Yeah, that incident when like he blew out his sneaker. Yeah. Remember he ripped through the sneaker?
Imagine it. Yeah.
If that was like an Achilles or some shit, knock on wood for the dude.
And at that point, like they're selling his jerseys. CBS is buying the rights to those games. That's millions of dollars. They're selling the jerseys. He has to wear Nike because Duke's a Nike school. So he's just put in all these different things. He's making no money of it, and his career could be over. And that's the thing is, like, he deserved to make money even in high school because he had 1 million followers. He should have been able to do brand deals, but he didn't because he didn't want to lose eligibility. And, you know, he just needs to be able to capitalize and have something because we all know how short pro sport careers are in general. Which is why they get paid so much, but not everyone's that fortunate. So, you know, that's another cool thing about Overtime Elite is that we have like an insurance policy for injuries, and if they don't end up playing professional basketball, we have $100,000 scholarship ready for them to go back to school, not play basketball, just for academics as like a backup plan. So, you know, that's how we're trying to, you know, make a system that's pretty flawed better, because that's the thing is like the way it's like Zion had to go to college for 1 year and then go to the NBA. Like that was the best route for him, and like he doesn't have a degree now. Like what's his backup plan?
Yeah.
If he just has that rookie contract, like there's no backup plan. So it's like they're kind of set up, like they're set up in a tough spot. Like it's either like, yo, you got to make it, like you got to have 10-year career, or like I don't know, you know what I mean? So it's a flawed system for sure.
Man, it's fascinating when you look at it from that perspective. Like, yeah, you go into college, and some people would argue that these guys got paid under the table and whatnot,
Yeah,
and you've heard
that definitely
stories
happens.
after the fact too. But still, I think what's fascinating with Overtime Elite is that you're creating something for... Now, is this going to take away from kids going to play college basketball?
Yeah, as soon as you get paid as a professional basketball player, you can't play in college anymore. So for the kids that are deciding to go to Overtime Elite, they're opting out of college basketball.
Now, are these kids Kentucky Duke level?
Yes.
And they're choosing not to go to those D1
yes,
schools to...
yes.
Oh, wow.
So these kids are the top prospects. We want the top players that are on the path of the NBA, like that. Those are the type of players we want. We don't care about their social media as much on Overtime Elite side. It's strictly like
Primary factor right away is can you ball?
100%. And because I mean that's how it's going to work. And we're basically, you know, we want them at age 16 because we want time to develop them. And then, you know, the route, you know, we're getting them in basically. It's a full on like NBA operation. You know, we have, you know, former NBA coaches, former NCAA championship coaches, you know, NBA strength and conditioning coaches. You know, it's basically like you know, the GM is a ex-NBA GM. So it's basically like an NBA front office, just and there's going to be a whole academic side that one gets them their high school diploma, gives them customized academics to what they need specifically. And then, you know, really preparing them for the NBA, which is, you know, financial literacy, social media literacy, you know, how to deal with these social justice issues. Like these 16 to 18-year-olds that are going to be in the NBA in a few years, they're really the role models for the country. Like you see what happened with George Floyd, like and the people who spoke out, like these NBA players made such a difference. But it's like, who's getting them ready for that? How could you be ready for that? So we're just creating you know, when you start it yourself, you can just design it the way you want. So we care just as much about the academic side as we do about the on-court skill development. But we're going to put an NBA basketball, NBA size court, run NBA offenses from the time they're 16, 17, 18, and we're going to pay them. They're going to have money in their pocket. They're going to know how to handle their money. They're going to know how to play with the best players, with the best coaches, and they're just going to be prepared for the NBA in a way that just never has happened before. And people wonder why. If you look at the NBA now, Giannis, Jokic, Luka Doncic, all these guys are international.
Yep.
And why are these guys better than our NBA players than the American players when I thought America was the best at basketball? It's because they've been playing pro since they were 16 in real programs with grown men. And that's what we're trying to start here in America.
Dude, verbatim, that's my argument. Are you a soccer fan at all?
I'm not, but I understand how that works overseas. Like if you're in England and you're not a pro by 15, like you're not good.
You're not going to make it.
You're not going to make
so
it.
That's the biggest difference. Here we value education. I don't want to shit on education, but Christian Pulisic, who's the captain of the men's team now, he plays for Chelsea, just won the Champions League. He's the golden boy for the U.S. men's national team. he's 23 years old now. If he was to go through the American ranks, right, he's graduating college 21, 22. Then he's going pro in the MLS. Whereas, like you said, if he's playing professional at 16 for Borussia in Germany, like, you have a 6-7 year disadvantage when you're a kid 22 years old graduating from Stanford and going to the MLS. Those dudes from Argentina, from England and France, when you're 22, you have 6 years. Mbappe now is 22. Like,
that's
you want that kid going up against someone from Duke?
Yeah, it's like you said, we value education, and like we do in America, but like I think we're like pretending we care about education with athletes. Like I said, like
that's a good point.
It's like Zion doesn't get a degree. Like he just makes the college money and then goes on to playing professional. Like that's really what it is.
We front like we care, but we
front
don't.
like we care, but like we don't. Like, you know, that's a whole nother story. Like, because these colleges are just businesses. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I got a degree too. You know, it's great. It's great to have your education, and I'm all about it. But at the same time, like, you know, but we're really inconsistent because if you look at tennis players and golf players, they're pro by 15 and 16 years old, and they're getting sponsorship deals too. But when it's American basketball players, oh no, don't pay them that young. Like, God forbid, you know what I mean? It's like, it makes you think, like, why, you know, even don't high school baseball players get drafted out of high school too?
Yeah.
It's just like just basketball players that, like, I guess the NBA made the rule, so it's 19 to go in the NBA. But now we've seen with LaMelo, guys like RJ Hampton, you know, you don't need to go to college. You can, you know, LaMelo dropped out of high school. He was a pro at 16. He played in Lithuania. Then he played in Australia. And now look at him, Rookie of the Year. And honestly looking like a generational type talent.
Yep.
So with these players doing that, and then I don't know if you know about the G League Ignite team, but basically the G League started this team for the 18-year-olds where they pay them $500,000 and it's just a year to prep them for the NBA draft. So you had guys like Jalen Green, who, you know, was a top high school player and, you know, could have went to any college he wanted to, said, no, I'm not going to college. I'm going to go to G League Ignite team. I'm going to get paid. I'm going to play against real pros in the G League bubble. And now he's going to look like he's going to be like a top 3 pick. So with Overtime Elite, you know, we can have these kids from 16, 17, 18, and then hopefully they'll be able to go to the NBA draft, or 16, 17, they can go to the Ignite team and then go to the draft, or 16, 17, they can go overseas and then go to the draft. So there's a lot of different options still.
I think the cool thing about the Overtime Elite League is that you don't got to worry about that argument of, oh, they might not be playing with the best competition if you're only getting the best competition. So that's why I asked if all those guys that are going into this league are eligible for like Kentuckys and Dukes and Syracuses of the world, because then if you're scouting them, you don't got to worry of what's the level of competition. You
100%.
see that all the time in like the NFL, right? Like this quarterback, like Trey Lance, just got drafted by the 49ers. It's like, well, you know, he's played one game in the last 2 years, and it was an FBS school. He didn't play Ohio State and Michigan.
No, exactly.
But like talent is talent, though, too.
100%. And that's what we care about. Like we want to be credible. Like we want these kids, we want the scouts to respect the league the kids are playing in, and take it seriously. And that's why, like, the schedule is going to be diverse, right? They're going to be playing against, you know, they're going to be playing in the league against each other. They're going to be playing overseas against other professional teams. We just recently scrimmaged against Team Loaded, which is like one of the best AAU programs in the country. So they're going to get, you know, there's going to be a lot of different things, and there might be some traveling abroad as well. So, I mean, our number one focus is, you know, preparing them the best for the NBA, and that means they get playing against really good competition. You know, maybe getting their butt kicked sometimes as well. So
that's part of it.
It's part of it. So, you know, we have a great team, and we have a facility that's being built now in Atlanta, and a great team that's forming down there as well. And it's just amazing to see these high-level people just focused on developing these young men. So it's pretty great.
Man, fascinating stuff with this league. I'm excited. Are you going to be able to watch it? Like, you guys going to have it streamed or what?
Yeah, so I don't think they fleshed out the full, like, distribution plan yet. But I don't think it's going to be like watch live. I think it's going to be rolled out like episodic, like an episodic series. But we'll see. I mean, there's going to be highlights for sure.
That's what you guys are all about too. So.
Yeah, 100%. So you got to stay tuned. We're definitely like, we're rethinking everything. Like everything that's your traditional league, like we're thinking like, should we do that? Why should we do that? obviously it's a big money maker to sell rights to like a broadcaster, and we need to make money to have a successful league. So that's something we're thinking about. But yeah, I mean, we're ready to, we're a very disrupting company, and we're gonna definitely stir it up here. But we can't mess with the integrity of the game because, like you said, we want the NBA scouts to take this league really serious. But everything that we can make more fun and engaging for fans, we're gonna do that for sure.
But dude, what about you, man? I see you got videos of you dunking and windmills and all that. You've always been the guy that got bounced, or what?
So
What's the alter ego? I saw that on the gram.
Yeah, so the alter ego, it's better balance. I mean, so the problem is like people ask me this. They're like, yo, did you always have balance or did you work hard for it? It's like, one, like we'll never know because I always worked hard and like I'm pretty sure that's what's correlated to it. But two, in high school, like I was just so injury prone. Like I had like from 7th grade to 11th grade, I broke a bone. So
Damn.
So I was like pretty much
in your legs or just in general, just across the board?
Yeah, it was like a stress fracture in the foot. Like I can't even keep track, but like I broke both feet and like an ankle.
Damn, you're like Mankind in wrestling, just all these injuries.
I don't know what the problem was. Like since then, knock on wood, like everything's been good. Like I think I was just like nutritionally depleted back then. I don't know what it was, but and I broke my wrist really bad. So I had all these different injuries. So I was just always coming back. And when you're always coming back, when you're in a boot, like it's like I don't even know how athletic I was because you're always just a little bit slower. And like you ever had a cast on for like 10 weeks?
Yeah, dude.
Take your foot out, like. So, like, I probably had all these imbalances, which probably made me get injured again and again and again. And then college, I started to finally, like, well, one, I was, like, my work ethic got better. I was more in the weight room. My body started to balance out a little bit probably. I still had, like, a couple injuries in college, but nothing crazy. And then now, like, honestly, I feel the best. I think I was jumping higher a few years ago, but I feel the best I've ever felt now at age 28 because I'm just getting smarter with the way I train. But yeah.
And
so
how's
like,
your diet too?
Yeah, so my diet's definitely like when I was in college and high school, I ate anything, whatever.
I mean, yeah, everyone did.
Didn't care. I've definitely taken much more interest in diet now because I'm just like kind of obsessed with like performing at my best, not just like athletically, but like generally. And then I'm also like pretty obsessed with like longevity and like I want to live a long, healthy, amazing life.
But also
life.
like energy, bro. If I eat some whack shit, I'm like, oh, I just feel sluggish the next day.
100%. And yeah, and I'm just really fascinated by it. So I listen to a ton of podcasts on like health, nutrition, diet, sleep, because I think there's a lot of information out there and a lot of hacks and a lot of things you can do to just be happier and healthy. And I think, you just kind of have to put in extra effort to figure those things out. But yeah, my diet, it's really simple. Like I'm not a big person on like diets like, oh, you got to go keto, you got to do this. Like I'm not a big guy on like extremes. I think like you just need to eat real food. You just need to eat whole foods. You need to eat healthy grains, vegetables, lean meats. I eat red meat in moderation, and I think I think it's a lot simpler than people think. Obviously, people have food allergies and all these things. Now, I don't want to be insensitive to that, but I think it's a lot simple. It's like eat what you need to fuel. Don't overeat. Eat whole foods. You'll be okay. And if you want to have, and I definitely have the occasional. I definitely eat pizza and ice cream and stuff like that. I treat myself and have cheat meals and stuff. I'm not, because at the end of the day, you want to be happy too. So it's all the balance. You got to live in the gray is what I've been learning.
You drink? You like to drink?
I do drink socially.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I don't want to point you out as an alcoholic.
Yeah, I'm not an alcoholic, but during the pandemic, I've become very fond of wine. Like I'm all in on wine. I'm just trying to learn like so much on wine. Like I'm pretty like I'm an all or nothing type of guy. So like I can't like half-ass something. So like if I'm not going to go all in, like I'm just not going to do it. And that's what's like, I guess that's my personality. And that's why I kind of only pursue like what I'm passionate about. But wine is so interesting because like one, like you can know a lot and still don't know anything. So it's like an endless field to learn from. And then like two, it fascinates me because like wine itself, like it's like alive. It's like the one drink it's the one drink that like, one has had so much thought put into it, and two, it's like forever evolving, right? It's like and no batch is the same. Like you can buy like like the same brand Cabernet, and like it's probably a little bit different because it's just like an evolving thing. And I love coffee and I love wine. So I'm like I'm trying to work on my like coffee game. I got like an espresso machine. Like I'm grinding my own beans. I'm like working on my craft. I'm very much like hands on. Like it's like if I can make this better, then I want to do it type of person. But yeah, so I definitely drink a little bit, but I have a hard rule. Like I don't drink. Like pretty much during the week. I don't drink. Like on the weekend, I'll enjoy some wine, but I try to stay like work mode Monday through Thursday with the diet and no alcohol. And then on the weekend, socially, I care about my social life. I like talking to people, hanging out with people, and it's great to share wine. Wine's just a great it's a great way. You bring a bottle of wine over. It's just symbolic for so much.
It is, yeah.
So
And
that's
it's
what I
also
like about
something
it.
that you could enjoy and you don't need to worry about really getting like super twisted and acting a fool.
Exactly.
Like you bring
Exactly.
tequila, it might get crazy. You know what I mean? Like I like tequila and I'm a big beer drinker, man. I love beer. I mean, look, Stone Cold's behind me is my hero over here. But like I just love IPAs, and
Yeah.
it's a heavy beer. You have 2-3 cans of them, it's like you're feeling nice.
100%. I like IPAs too. Like I'm definitely, and I also tequila is my preference for liquor as well. Um, like if I'm gonna get a drink, if I'm gonna get a cocktail, most likely it's gonna be some sort of tequila drink. Especially in the summertime.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, I definitely have made like a very effort to like not have the habit of like drinking beer like after work. I feel like that's like it's a slippery slope to like have beer be a part of your like normal routine just because it's just so heavy and caloric. But I get it. Beer is refreshing and really tasty, and those
Mm-hmm.
IPAs I like the hoppy hazy type of IPAs. So I feel you on that.
When you go to the parks and people don't know you and you just go up and dunk, what's that reaction like?
Yeah,
White man can't jump. That don't apply to you.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I think like when I go to these parks, like sometimes I try like
Do you ever fuck with people that don't
yeah.
know you? Just
I, I
like the whole Uncle Drew shit.
I mean, I used to do more stuff. Like I used to try to like bet people like you don't think I could jump over this person or you don't think I could do this and like try to make money. Now like I don't know. I just kind of like keep to myself. Like when I was in Miami, it was cool because like no one knew who I was because I was just like
Mm.
coming out of nowhere. But I would keep going to the same park all the time and playing pickup. And eventually you start to get respect. And then like you catch like I don't like it's hard for me to catch an in-game dunk. Like I'm only 6 feet. Like I need to like the right situation, the right path to the basket. Like everything needs to work out or like a fast break. So you don't get that every single time, but eventually like it would happen here and there, and then everyone would be like, wow, like I didn't know you had that in you. And then like I usually throw down a couple dunks like in between games just to like see if I still got it. Um but but yeah, it's definitely one of the best feelings. Also just playing basketball at a high level, looking like someone who maybe can't. It's definitely one of the best feelings. I think it just goes, I've always kind of been like an underdog athlete, and I think I really um, maximized my basketball career. Like I don't think playing pro is ever supposed to be like in my path. Coming from like as a 6 foot white guy from a suburban town in Florida, with no scholarship offers out of high school. So I think I just really love proving people wrong, and it's cool that now like it's turned into overtime, which was like a startup that many people counted out in the beginning, and now like collectively we're proving people wrong. So I'm all about, and we have a great team at overtime. So it almost feels like I'm on a basketball team, like trying to win a championship every day, going to work. So it's pretty cool.
And all your work revolves around sports, so it's like
Yeah,
nothing really
it is.
changed for
It is
you.
crazy. It is crazy. Like sometimes I feel like I'm like, wow, this is insane. Like
You get survivor's guilt,
yeah,
where you kind of feel like maybe it's just
survivor's
pinch me,
guilt. I
kind of.
mean, I feel like yeah. I think there's been a few lucky things for me. It's like growing up, I was always into video editing and like video and sports and basketball and stuff like that. And luckily, like video just became so crazy in the digital era, right? It's like social media started out with just photos, and then Instagram has, like, if you think about Instagram, it was just photos, and
Right.
now, and like Facebook was just statuses, right? And everything's turned into video, right? Short form video, long form video. So I think that I got really lucky, that the world just moved in that direction. But I also think like there's like so like I've actually been working on this for so long. Like when I was in seventh grade, like I was like illegally downloading like NBA clips and like making Kobe Bryant mixes like in my class in like classes on like Windows Movie Maker. Like I was making like desktop wallpapers with like my favorite Mets players and like have it be my like on Photoshop, like all self taught. So like I always had this creative side to me to like create content before that word even existed. And I was always just so focused on basketball that I never put so much time into it. And now I'm actually focusing more on content and a little less on basketball because that's more in my job. But somehow it just keeps crossing back over to the point where now like playing basketball is still kind of in my, it's like it's still part of my work in a sense. Like I'm creating content around me playing basketball, and that contributes to like my own social media. And it's also crossed over into some of overtime stuff too. So it's really crazy. I mean, I definitely am so grateful. I'd like to think I manifested some of this stuff on my own, but I've been really fortunate and to get the opportunity, from a lot of from our co-founders, Dan and Zach at Overtime. And really they just, more than anything, they just empowered me to figure it out. And that goes for a lot of us. And I think that it's just been really great. And that's the benefit of working at a startup is that a lot of times it's like, hey, like you got to do this job, and like figure it out. As opposed to like when you work at a big corporate company, it's like, hey, like you're employee number 1,637 and like you'll be doing this this week and you'll be doing that next week. It's like I need to have my hands in a lot of things, and I always was so curious to like how the business worked, and I always wanted to know everything. And I still to this day, even though we're growing, I'm still like I have my hands in so many things, and that's what keeps me energized and going for sure.
Yeah, it's refreshing and it doesn't get boring.
Yes.
A lot of times doing the same shit gets stale. And also, I think you definitely manifested that if you're editing at such a young age. And like the self-taught thing, like I learned how to do all this stuff on my own, like one of my friends showed me and he was like, yo, look, I could show you. And this is something that really resonated with me from day one. It's like, man, I could promote you all you want. I can, put you on, but like I can't make people stay and like really fuck with you. Like you have to do that, like I could give you a look, but then from there, it's your job to continue and, keep them. And I mean, yeah, I think you definitely manifested all the stuff that you're doing. Last question I want to ask you before we start to wrap up, because I know you got to go. You've been able to interact with a lot of athletes. I've seen some of your pictures and creeped on your Instagram and shit. How different is it have you played with any professional basketball players, like just pick up? And like, how different is the levels? Like you always hear dudes say like, yo, that guy sucks and he's like the 12th man on the bench.
Yeah. So in America, there's like people have no idea how good NBA players are. It's like there's only 400 jobs, right? And then there's this other pool of American basketball players from like the best players on the D3 and D2 and D1 teams. And like, okay, some of those guys are playing overseas making really good money. Some are making overseas playing no money. And some like just stop playing ball and are coaching or doing whatever. But there's still a lot of those players, right? So I'm like in that pool. I'm like on the bottom end of like there's really no league for them, because if you look at the overseas model, like you were saying with soccer, right? It's like, okay, there's like in England, there's like a first division, second division, third. There's like 7 professional leagues in England. Like they're all pros. There's no universities, but they're like pros.
Right.
So it's like and then in America we have, the MLS, the USL, and then Division 1, 2, and 3 soccer. So like the way I look at it is like Division 1, 2, and 3 is kind of like the 3rd, 4th, and 5th pro league in America, right? So if you play Division 3 soccer in America, in my mind, you're playing like 5th league pro soccer, which isn't the highest level, because we know like Division 1 soccer in America isn't as good as like the 5th league in England.
Right.
So it's like with basketball, we're the best country. America's the best country. So if you played Division 1, 2, or 3, what is it? It's like the NBA, the G League, and then Division 1 is like the 3rd league. So that's how I look at it. So it's like if I like for the really good Division 3 players, like they were playing fifth league pro in America, which is like one of the best leagues. It's comparable to me playing like fifth league pro England soccer. But there's no league for us, right? You go to college and you're done. So you got to play in like the New York leagues, but we're not getting paid. So there's like this like semi-pro zone, and it's really good players. So to go to your question, have I played pickup against like really really good NBA players? The only one I played with was with Dwayne Wade, which was amazing, but he was on my team and he was kind of coasting.
So like, what's his coasting like?
So yeah, one, he was like out of his prime and coasting, but he was still going into his last season, which was really productive. It was a really productive season, and obviously he's like one of the greatest players ever, like probably the second best shooting guard ever to play, or third best shooting guard ever to play. I guess it's like Michael Kobe and him, in my opinion.
I'd agree with that.
And James Harden's just not there, maybe statistically, but like he's got to win some championships. But yeah, I mean, it was just so surreal because like growing up in South Florida, I watched Dwayne Wade more than anyone else because I just didn't have a choice because that was the only game on. But
hey, not a bad person to watch though.
I grew to be like, you know, he was really one of my favorite players. Like in college, I was number 3 because of him, and to be able to play with him was like the greatest thing ever. And be on his team and like. But he'd have these moments where it was like, damn, like he like Euro'd someone and like did a little floater, and I was like, he got in the lane, like did a pump fake, like pulled up, did a pump fake. I'm like, damn, because the Dwayne Wade pump fake's like insane. He gets everyone. I was like, so he had these moments where I was like, damn, that's Dwayne Wade, and it's like at any moment he probably could do whatever he wants, but he was kind of chilling and just having fun. So that was amazing. And then I mean, like when I played in Israel, like I played against pretty good pros, like guys like this guy Terrell Harris, I think that was his name. He played on the Heat years back, and like I played against him, and like these guys are amazing, and like they'll never play in the NBA again, or like they played in the summer league but never will sign an NBA contract, and they're unbelievable. And there's just nothing you could do. Like they have so much size, length, athleticism, and the skill, and like for someone like me, like I know like there's just a limit, and like everyone thinks like, yo, like put me out there, I could score like 9 points a game, and it's like maybe if you put me in the NBA, like I could hit a corner 3 in a real game, maybe, I don't know, but like it doesn't matter because you have to have the pedigree, you have to have the resume, you have to put up the numbers, you have to have the game film, you have to have played at this level and this level and this level before to get there. And there's always people that break through and able to do it, but yeah, shout out to all the hoopers out there that like they just never got like they like in any other country, if any other sport, like they'd be making a decent living. Like there's dudes that are playing in the West Forest League I play now that like they should be making like 50, 60 grand a year playing basketball, but there's just no league like that here in America. So shout out to them, but
for the love of the game.
Yeah. So put some respect on the 12th guy on the bench in the NBA. Like they're better at basketball than you'll probably be at anything in your life. But so that's just a message to everyone. So.
There was that video a couple of months ago of that dude that was calling out Scalabrini, right? Like he's always like the focal point of like getting criticized by NBA Twitter. It's like this dude had moments in NBA finals and in playoffs, and exactly. he beat the kid. Like I think they were playing for sneakers, and he beat the kid like 12-0. Shut him out.
And it's like yeah, like is Scalabrini the greatest athlete? No, but like he figured something out. Like either he was a great guy in the locker room, or he just was good enough that he could be that slow, or like he just had unique skills, or like or whatever, and it's also like maybe he got drafted to the right team and was able to produce the way he could have, whereas like someone who's better than him got drafted to a team that was a worse situation. Like basketball, like sports in general, is so out of your control, and that's like the biggest like hardest part mentally to deal with, is like between injuries, politics, situations. It's like you're basically like you put like your destiny is in like whether your coach believes in you or not, realistically.
Yeah.
And then it's also like you never know who they're gonna get. You never know who they're gonna trade for. You never know who's gonna transfer into your school. Like there's just guys that are better. So it's really out of control. It's tough. There's a lot of good basketball players out there that should have made a little bit of money playing and they never did. But yeah, all in all, like. Don't think you can play against NBA players. All right.
I feel like you're talking about yourself over there with basketball players that should have made some more money.
I mean, I'm very happy with my basketball career. Like I said, like I don't think I had any business like playing 4 years of college ball and then playing overseas. But I do think there's like another, like I always say this, like if I live 10 lives, I think there's like 2 or 3 of those lives where like my career went a little bit smoother. You know what I mean? I always say that. It's like people ask me like, would you ever live in Miami? I'm like, if I could live 10 lives, I think my like seventh life I live in Miami, but I only live one, so I'm gonna live in New York. You know what I
I
mean?
respect that. I respect that, man. Dude, this was fun. I appreciate picking your brain, and I learned a lot about this overtime league and just overtime as a brand, and about you too, man. So I appreciate you coming by. Where can they find you? What's your social media? I know you got alter egos and shit. Like
Yeah.
this is where you could plug away.
Yeah, I got a lot of identities on social media. It's a bit confusing. But on Instagram, there's 2 accounts, Overtime Mikey, which is more like my personal account, like kind of like my lifestyle account, and then at Better Bounce, which is 100% focused on basketball. All my content is pretty much focused on just helping young basketball players get better, whether that's like breaking down certain moves, doing certain workouts, anything I can do to try to give back all the things that I know through my content, taking my basketball expertise, video editing, putting it all together, creating content. And it's really been great to see that account grow. And then on TikTok, which is actually my best platform right now, Overtime Mikey on TikTok, just past 500,000 followers. You got to check it out. It's kind of a blend of everything. It's like basketball content to help you get better, but also like fun entertainment, NBA hot takes. And I kind of have figured out my style on there, and it's really a great platform. I do a lot of like voiceover videos on there, so definitely catch me on there. And then Overtime, we're everywhere, every single platform, But a special plug to one of our newest verticals at Overtime, which is Overtime Kicks. It's like our sneakers and culture, like sneaker culture vertical. So make sure you follow Overtime Kicks on Instagram and TikTok. We got 1.3 million followers on TikTok. We're the biggest sneaker account on TikTok, so make sure you look out for that.